The first time I realized something was terribly wrong, it wasn't because of a nightmare. It was because my own reflection looked unfamiliar. Every morning, my husband would place a steaming cup of herbal tea in front of me with the same gentle smile. "Drink this," he would whisper. "It will help you sleep better." For months, I believed him. I believed every reassuring word, every comforting touch, every promise that he only wanted me to recover from the grief of losing my father. I had no reason to doubt the man I had trusted with my heart, until the memories began disappearing. Not all at once, just little pieces, a conversation I couldn't remember, a customer insisting we had spoken the previous day, bills already paid that I was certain I had never seen. Every missing memory stole another piece of my confidence. I started wondering if something inside my mind was breaking. If you're listening to this story, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. I'd love to know. And stay until the end, because what happened next completely changed my understanding of trust, marriage, and betrayal. My name is Zara. I owned a small fashion studio in the center of town, a place filled with colorful fabrics, humming sewing machines, and dreams stitched into every dress I created. People knew me as the woman who never missed a deadline, the woman who remembered every client's measurements without looking at a notebook. Then everything changed. One afternoon, a bride arrived to collect the gown she had ordered weeks earlier. She smiled warmly. "Is it finished?" I stared at her. Nothing. No memory, no measurements, no fitting, not even her name. She looked confused when I apologized and asked her to return later. The moment she left, I searched through my appointment book. There it was, her name, her payment, her measurements, all written in my own handwriting. I felt my knees weaken. How could I write pages of detailed notes about someone I couldn't remember meeting? At first, I blamed stress. Grief has strange ways of affecting people. That's what everyone kept telling me. My husband repeated it almost every day. "You're carrying too much on your shoulders," he would say. "You need to let me take care of everything." His words sounded comforting. Now I know they were laying the foundation for something far more dangerous. The strange episodes became more frequent. Some mornings I woke up close to noon with an unbearable headache. My body felt unusually heavy. Even walking across the room exhausted me. Yet every single morning, my husband was already awake. Breakfast prepared, tea waiting, smile perfectly rehearsed, almost too perfect. Whenever I apologized for sleeping so long, he would gently squeeze my hand. "Don't worry," he'd say. "The doctor said recovery takes time." Except I had never spoken to any doctor. That realization hit me days later, and once it did, countless little moments suddenly felt different. Jewelry started disappearing. First, an old necklace that had belonged to my grandmother, then a pair of gold earrings, finally an envelope containing important property documents. Whenever I mentioned them, he smiled with quiet sympathy. "You probably misplaced them." Those words became painfully familiar. "You've been forgetting so much lately." Little by little, I stopped trusting myself, until one evening, while holding another cup of that familiar tea, I noticed something I had ignored for months. Every episode, every forgotten day, every deep sleep always happened after I finished that drink. For the first time, I didn't take a sip. Instead, I watched the steam rise into the air while my husband quietly watched me from across the room. He wasn't looking at me with love. He was waiting to make sure I drank every last drop. A cold chill crawled down my spine. At that moment, I stopped asking whether I was losing my mind. I started asking a far more terrifying question. What if someone wanted me to lose it? This version changes the narration style, setting details, character names, pacing, and wording while preserving the overall suspense. I can continue writing the rest of the story as a fully original narrative rather than closely following the source scene by scene. I didn't sleep that night. The untouched cup sat on my bedside table until the tea turned cold. My husband eventually glanced at it, frowned for the briefest moment, then smiled as though nothing had happened. "You must have been too tired," he said the next morning. "I'll make you a fresh cup." "I think I'll skip it today." His hand froze around the kettle, only for a second. Then he laughed softly. "Suit yourself." It was such a tiny reaction that most people would never have noticed it. But when you're searching for the truth, the smallest crack can reveal the entire wall. After he left for work, I locked every door in the house and walked slowly from room to room. For years, I had called this place home. Now it felt like someone else's house. I opened drawers, cupboards, and storage boxes, not because I expected to find anything dramatic, but because I needed to know whether I could still trust my own instincts. Everything seemed ordinary. Old family photographs, holiday decorations, receipts, warranty papers. Nothing explained the growing fear inside me. Then, inside the study, I noticed something unusual. A filing cabinet that had always been locked was standing slightly open. I was certain it had never been left that way before. Inside were neatly organized folders, business contracts, insurance documents, tax records. Near the back sat a plain brown envelope with no label. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to close the drawer and pretend I had never seen it. Instead, I opened the envelope. There were photocopies of my identification documents, property records, bank statements, and several forms with blank signature lines waiting to be filled. My hands trembled. Why would anyone gather all of these documents without telling me? Before I could think any further, my phone rang. It was Maya, my oldest friend. "You've been avoiding everyone," she said. "Are you all right?" For a moment, I almost answered automatically, "I'm fine." Instead, I whispered the truth. "I don't know." There was silence. Then Maya spoke carefully. "I'm coming over." An hour later, she sat across from me at the kitchen table while I explained everything. The missing memories, the headaches, the forgotten conversations, and the strange envelope. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she leaned forward. "Zara," she said quietly, "I'm not saying something terrible is happening, but I am saying you shouldn't investigate this alone." Her words settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Until then, I had believed I was fighting only confusion. Now someone else had seen the fear in my eyes, which meant I wasn't imagining it. That evening, I returned every document exactly where I had found it. If someone was hiding secrets, I couldn't let them know I had started asking questions. When my husband came home, he greeted me with his usual smile. "You look better today. I feel better. I'm glad." He disappeared into the kitchen. A few minutes later, I heard the familiar sound, a spoon gently circling inside a ceramic cup. Clink, clink, clink. The sound that had once made me feel cared for now sent a shiver down my spine. He walked back into the living room carrying 2 steaming mugs. I made enough for both of us. For the first time, he poured himself a cup as well. He raised it with a smile. "To your recovery." I smiled back, but instead of drinking, I lifted my mug just high enough to hide my face. Somewhere behind that calm expression, one question echoed louder than ever. Why had he suddenly decided to drink the tea with me? I smiled as I lifted the mug. "So, we're both drinking tonight." My husband nodded. "Thought I'd join you for once." His smile looked genuine, too genuine. We sat in silence, each holding a cup between our hands. The room was so quiet that the ticking clock sounded louder than usual. Then his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen for only a second before excusing himself. "I'll be right back." The moment he stepped into the hallway, I carefully poured the tea from my mug into the flower pot beside the window. When he returned, he never noticed. Instead, he took a long drink from his own cup and smiled. "There," he said. "Now we're both taking care of ourselves." I smiled back, but this time I wasn't watching the tea, I was watching him. The next morning, nothing unusual happened. Neither the morning after. I began to wonder if I had imagined everything. Then, 3 days later, I received a call from the bank. "Mrs. Zara, we're calling to verify a request regarding the transfer of ownership of your late father's farmland." My heart nearly stopped. I never submitted any request. There was silence. "I'm sorry," the officer replied carefully. "Someone claiming to represent you presented documents for review. Since the signature appeared inconsistent with previous records, we delayed processing." I thanked her, ended the call, and sat perfectly still. It had never been about my health. It had never been about helping me recover. Someone wanted control of everything my father had left behind. That afternoon, I met the bank manager, my lawyer, and a police investigator. I didn't accuse anyone. I simply handed them every document I had quietly copied over the previous week. The strange paperwork, photographs of the filing cabinet, records showing missing valuables, the timeline I had written every single day. For weeks, I had believed the notebook existed to help me remember. Now I realized it had become something even more valuable: evidence. The investigation moved slowly, painfully slowly. I returned home each evening pretending nothing had changed. If he suspected I had contacted the authorities, everything could fall apart. Then one Friday night, he finally made his move. "I've scheduled an appointment with a specialist," he said over dinner. They can evaluate your memory problems. He pushed several papers toward me. I only need your signature. I looked down. Power of attorney, property authorization, financial access. Every page transferred another piece of my life into his hands. He had buried them beneath medical paperwork, hoping I would sign without reading. Instead, I quietly placed the pen on the table. I think I'll read everything first. For the first time in months, his smile disappeared, only for a heartbeat, but I saw it, and he knew I had seen it. The knock on the front door came less than 5 minutes later. 3 investigators entered the house alongside 2 uniformed officers. One introduced himself politely. We're following up on an active fraud investigation. My husband's face turned pale. There must be some mistake. The investigator calmly placed several documents on the table. There are forged signatures, unauthorized financial applications, and evidence suggesting an attempt to obtain property through deception. He looked toward me. Mrs. Zara, thank you for your cooperation. My husband slowly turned in my direction. The expression on his face wasn't anger. It was disbelief. You knew? I met his eyes. No. I remembered. Months later, the legal process finally ended. Some of the stolen jewelry was recovered. The fraudulent paperwork was dismissed. My father's land remained in my name. The house, however, never felt like home again. I sold it, not because I wanted to erase the past, but because I wanted room for a different future. I reopened my fashion studio in another neighborhood. The walls were freshly painted. The windows let in warm morning light. New brides laughed as they tried on dresses. Children ran past the storefront. Life slowly returned. One afternoon, a customer asked why I always carried a small notebook in my handbag. I smiled. It reminds me that memory isn't just what we keep in our minds. It's also what we choose to write, protect, and never allow anyone else to rewrite. People often believe betrayal arrives with shouting, violence, or obvious warning signs. Sometimes it arrives with kindness, with comforting words, with a warm smile, and a cup of tea. But the truth has a remarkable way of surviving, even when someone tries to bury it. And once the truth finds its voice, no lie is strong enough to silence it. If this story reminded you to trust your instincts, protect your peace, and never ignore the small warning signs that something isn't right, remember this. Real strength isn't found in never being deceived. It's found in finding the courage to stand up the moment you discover the truth.